Got say hi, Kenton.
Hey.
We have a tinder bundle. We'll figure out what that is next to it. He'll tell us here in a little bit. Some more pieces of tinder with some cattail, hearth, and spindle that he's holding. And so he's gonna try to attempt to teach me how to do a hand drill. If I can't do it, he's gonna do it. So fire's gonna get started somehow.
Tinder already. I imagine this is like the little fluffs you were talking about.
Yeah, yep.
You just gathered tons of those.
Yeah, I just gathered and I sort of ripped whatever I could find off the stems. I've been telling kitten stories about me and the places I was at and the bush plains in Patagonia and what I did to find certain tinder because I felt like fire. Me and Kenton were talking about things that we thought were essential and feel like sometimes they put fire at a low ranking. But it did so much to me when I was able to get a fire started. Even if I didn't have food for that night, it just did something to soothe me into the night going into the next morning. So since I never knew where I was going, it didn't matter how many videos that I watched on YouTube to try to get prepared to going on the wheel. But it was good knowledge, but it almost meant nothing because I had no idea in the world where I was going. So when I ended up in these places, I had no knowledge of how to even use a fire starter. So it was just trial and error. I would find leaves like this, and it did nothing for me to get a fire started. They were dry as could be because in the bush plains it got up to anywhere from 100 to 120 degrees, and I just couldn't get a fire started.
So the first thing with friction fires, we're understanding that we're going to work really hard,
Okay.
and we're going to get a relatively fragile little ember that we want to then turn into fire. So having a nice tinder bundle is of utmost importance. The materials we have, I mean, compared to some places in the world, we have really good materials here. This morning everything was kind of damp from the dew, and so we were trying to gather up the driest stuff we could find. We've got some pine needles and such. A friend on YouTube showed me a really cool way to do it just with some dried oak leaves. And you know, as you found, there's some leaves, for instance the bracken fern up here, it looks like it's going to be the driest stuff in the world, and you can hold a torch to it and it just smolders, it doesn't go.
Yeah.
Oak leaves have something in them. They just tend to fire up nicely and hold a flame.
That's cool because when I think of dry leaves, I think they're just going to ignite. But there's such a science behind knowing your plants, knowing your surroundings, that it can be very beneficial, obviously, if you know what you're doing. So now knowing that you said these are oak leaves, right? And they would ignite better than certain ones that just smolder, that's a huge thing that can be beneficial to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you were facing out there, is not knowing what environment you're going to. So you couldn't even, there's no way to prepare and understand what plant species you're dealing with. And some people say, oh, you just need dry and fluffy. But literally, if I could show you this dry, fluffy bracken fern, you'd think it's perfect for
Yeah.
And what he does is he takes some of the leaves and crinkles them up really nice, and then sets it into a nest. With the rest of them, and I've seen them go straight from ember into these. Because we're gonna work really hard for this, we're gonna use something else to catch the ember.
Okay.
But this has been successful for me, and so really making sure that center is crinkled up, getting a better nest than I have here. But that tends to do it. So this is cattail. There's a lot of plants that their dispersal method is that they're going to catch the wind and off their seeds go. And that's probably what you found, is a little plant that had that dispersal method. Thistle, dandelion even. And so these cattail heads pack a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
Time to gather them.
I didn't know that was fluffy on the inside. I thought they were just only on the outside.
Yeah,
That's
there's a little teeny stick in the middle,
Yeah,
and otherwise it's all fluff. And one little piece gives us a lot of fluff. And so
That's all just from this piece?
yeah, that's just from that little teeny chunk off the top. And this is going to be the bed that we put that ember in. And that's going to really nurture it. You could have a fluff of cattail this big, and it's probably not actually going to start on fire, but it's going to spread and grow the heat to the point where it'll take with the rest of the stuff. It's magical in a number of ways. They're researching it for cancer.
What's the name of it again?
Chaga.
Chaga. C-H-A-G-A.
And what I'm doing here is I'm going to take out a little bit.
Can I eat some of that?
Sure, you can eat some. Because one of its superpowers is that it can catch. It's called coal extenders, is what we call it. So if we get just a little bit of coal onto the end of there, it's going to slowly burn up and create a nice hot coal. So when we get your ember, I'm going to be trying to capture that ember on here as a backup for us, and we'll have 2 of these waiting.
So does it come from a tree?
It comes from a tree. It's a fungus that infects the tree, and you'll just be walking through the woods, and literally on the side of that white birch tree, you'll see this chunk hanging off of there.
Okay.
Doctrine of signatures, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. They used it in herbalism early on. The idea that if something looks like something, then it will be good for that. And it's mostly disproven by science, but you think about walnuts look like a brain. We found out they're really good for the brain. And chaga looks like it's all burnt, and sure enough, it's really good for
okay, that's what you're saying. Yeah. Gotcha.
A white pine hearth board. Will this capture it if we're on the ground? So the principle's pretty simple. This is going to be spinning inside there, creating friction just like a bow drill, and creating dust, and then we're going to ignite that dust. Putting something under there, it could be anything that's going to catch that ember. And when I learned this, I was just told it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And you got to start and then plow and go, go, go. And I'd exhaust myself and it would never work. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to think of it in 3 stages. First of all, we're going to warm up the board. And you're just going to sit, spin with it for a while, and let everything heat up, dry out a little bit. Take a minute or 2 to just spin it.
Okay.
And then the second stage is we're going to start building dust in there. Thank you. And as we build dust, we want to save energy in our arms.
Okay, conservative. Don't go all out at the beginning. Okay.
And you can literally, as you're building up that dust, you can literally stop, rest for a minute, 2 minutes, and then go again.
Okay.
So there's no rush in that. And then at the end, we'll output more power and get it going. Up on top, I have a little bit of sap. So this is almost a cheat. It works really well. It's some sap, and we'll coat the spindle with that.
Okay.
And that's going to increase friction on our hands, and we're going to have to do less work.
Gotcha.
I don't want to be going really tiny.
Yeah.
Really thinking.
Yeah, good rotations.
Yeah, good rotation. And if you want, you can practice what they call floating hands in the beginning here. And if you watch my fingers, my fingertips are going to go up each time. And the idea behind floating hands is I can deliver downward pressure without traveling down the spindle. So let's first of all just get you spinning a little bit, see how that feels.
All right. Is that good?
Okay, you're doing good. So
I can smell a little
you
bit.
can smell the heat, yeah.
Yep.
At this point, the dust building stage, the one thing that's pretty critical is to
I'm trying to tuck him in there. I don't want to step on him.
yeah, look at that little guy. Is to keep this stable. So if you get tired and you move and this shifts,
Yeah.
then you're gonna lose your dust pile.
Okay.
So
Really put step on that sucker.
yeah, and
Okay.
if we're teaming, then one of us can be in charge of holding it down, the other one can be in charge of doing the spindle.
Okay.
And we can do it that way, or you can just go for it on your own. Whatever.
I want to try first attempt.
Okay.
So I warmed up the board. Now I'm getting dust, right?
Yeah.
Are we going straight into 3?
No, we can go ahead and build up dust. Good. How are your hands and arms?
They're all right.
All right. Okay.
I want to go ham, right?
Yeah. And you not. Again, you really don't have to.
Ham means hard as a mofo.
No. No. So, what you were doing there, like 50% harder. I might say just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Speed and pressure, but it's going to take less work than you think.
Okay.
Nice. Add another 10-15%. A little bit more speed.
Oh, no!
That's all right. That's all right. It's very forgiving. Okay. So I'm not going to do it for you. I'm just going to keep the heat there.
I'm about maxed out. You might have to just take over. This is all you.
Oh, you don't want? Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. And we're looking for smoke starting to come from down inside there. See how there's smoke coming from down there?
Yep.
Then we know we have an ember. On that chaga. That's our backup.
Okay.
And so that can sit there and smolder.
Okay.
Onto the fluff. Turn it back over, and then we've captured it.
Okay.
And you're going to lift the rest of that tinder bundle up around it.
You got it.
Okay.
Boy.
So a little key with these guys is if I blow down, you can get a lot of smoke. If I do it up here, stuff's gonna fall into my. So find
nice
flames, and want to keep those aimed up.
Okay.
Because it's easy to
You go like that, yep.
burns it up. Yeah, you know about that.
Oh yeah, trial and error.
Yeah, so that's I think why it wasn't working for me in the beginning is just I thought it had to be rushed.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't giving things time to work their magic.
Right. Experimented with that, and I would have met you for the first time and just said, "Oh, I'm gonna get a hand drill started. I know I will," and then I would have failed. I would have been probably mad the rest of the day because being an athlete and accomplishing things that I did in the past, you can become very hard on yourself when you're unsuccessful. But what I've learned that when you're in the wilderness, stuff happens. You get tired. You think you're gonna find food sometimes and you don't. It starts raining. It starts snowing. There's tons of variables. A gust of wind comes by and takes your ember or fire out. So when I came here today, I just said, I'm gonna see if I can get a hand drill. If I'm gonna be able to get started. If I don't, so what? It's not gonna ruin the rest of my day.
That's awesome.
I'm not gonna be sad, and I have no problem now, especially things in life, saying, you know what? I think I'm a little bit burnt out. I might need you to take over. Instead of just saying, oh man, the hell with it, I'm done. I'm going back to the York. That's the wrap. So this was an experience not to see if I could start a hand drill, but to show what may seem like we did the same things, but it's the small things that you fine tune to get this method to work for you.
I'm glad you brought up what you did, because I feel like that's one of the biggest survival mistakes is that self-punishment. And again, you practice things in your living room, and we would have had maybe cotton balls and
Yeah,
real
yeah.
nice fluffy stuff, and you blow it and it goes
Yeah.
right into flame. Then you try with things that you gathered from the dewy ground, and when when you're out there in a survival situation, if you're spending energy on self-punishment, that's a lot of mental energy that
Yeah.
could be used towards, thinking of positive, creative solutions to your problems.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Thanks for showing everybody how it's done.
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
I knew you would come through. So, what we have planned later on today, I don't know. It was sort of like, I don't know where we're going to leave for camping, but I almost want to sneak up on the monks, because yesterday we just sort of went up there, but I want to see if I'm going to. And these guys are crazy. They run everything barefoot. So I think I had my flip flops on yesterday, it's making all kinds of noise, and these guys are barefoot. You can like hardly hear them. So I think I probably might want to try to maybe go barefoot, just sneak up and check on them before we meet up with them later.
Let's do it, because they are really hard to sneak up on. So it would be.
Have you snuck up on them at all before without them noticing?
In the first week, I was able to get up close to them.
But now, since they're so used to the environment, they can pick up stuff.
They get so tuned in, and it might be, a blue jay up in the tree that sees us and starts calling, and then, what's that? Because they know, starting to know those alarm calls and stuff.
Yeah.
So it gets tougher and tougher. But if because I have this crappy white skin that glows in the forest, I'm gonna put on a little camo and then we'll see what we can do.
Becoming an animal to stuff. So yeah, like he was waiting for us. As soon as we came, he was just perched down like over this log. I was like, whoa, like hang on.
You knew we were coming.
So, all right, well, thanks, man.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Jeez.
So we're gonna get things gathered up, and then we're gonna. I think I'll take my camera with me, but I'm gonna be very quiet and attempt to go without any sandals or shoes and see how far we can sneak up on the monks.